That is, it's not really being talked about at the levels that it needs to be. There's not one word about it in the text. It's the sacred cow. You know, I mean, you'll upset a bunch of religions if you talk about overpopulation. A political sacred cow. You can't go there. It's politically incorrect to talk about population. It brings up memories of coercive population control. It brings up memories like China. It brings up memory of forced sterilizations in various countries or whatever. It brings up memories of when the developed North said, well, look at the size of the families, and it was felt to be a discrimination against nations who have very low footprint. Okay, it's a complex issue, but they're not even willing to talk about it. They're not even willing to discuss it, and as a result, our population, we're gaining about 1 billion people about every 10 to 15 years. The UN says, oh, the rate of increase is going to decline, but excuse me, when you get to 10 billion, everyone trying to achieve the standard of living of, well, not everyone, but the mean, everyone's trying to go...
They'll be consuming more resources.
Consume more resources. You know, the talk about how we need 5 planets is not just a metaphor. I mean, we're chewing through the one we've got for the sake of the corporations who stand to make money. And by the way, corporations need an expanding population because they need expanding consumption to continue doing what they're doing. So it's like people who know better are intentionally leading us over the cliff so they can continue to make near-term profits.
So what do you think would be the ideal solution? I mean, do you think the Chinese went overboard and the Indians went overboard? You mentioned those kind of memories that people have. Is there a maybe less coercive way of bringing about the changes you think are needed?
Of course.
What would it be?
Well, I mean, the Drawdown Project, Project Drawdown, labeled 2 of their top 10 saves on carbon emissions were educating females in family planning. And if you combine those 2, they go from 7th and 8th to 3rd, 2nd or 3rd. So basically empowering and enabling women to get contraception. There are cultures where if a woman is able to obtain birth control pills, for instance, I mean, condom, the man would never agree to, okay? If she was able to obtain birth control pills, then the husband could beat her severely for doing that. You know, it's cultural in a lot of places. So it's one of those things that you have to deal with different situations differently. But we're not even talking about it. We're not even trying to come up with solutions. That's why we call the program a seat at the table. The topic needs to be part of the negotiations. It needs to be politically correct to talk about it instead of politically incorrect to talk about it.
And do you think you're making progress? Are people kind of open to the idea, or is it still like
given the fact that our program in here was probably the only mention of the topic in any official capacity, we're making tiny progress.
Okay.
So we intend to do it again in Glasgow next year, and we want our request, should be a demand, but I'm not the one making the demand. Our request is that the UN put it on the agenda.
And if you look around the world at like the governments, are there some that are more open to working that into international agreements and others that are blocking that issue? Or?
The way I explain who I am, what I do, is I don't study the science as much as I study the scientists. So when you ask me, same with politics, when you ask me, are there governments that are more, I can only put you in touch with the people who know. Okay, who were the people I brought here to talk about it.
And one more question, you know, I know China is the best known when it comes to population control, but to be honest, I think they kind of give it a bad PR problem. You know, there's been some testimony in Congress that like they were doing forced abortions. do you see that as a problem to your cause? Like, should they maybe take it easy over there? Or?
It's not my cause, but I'll comment. What I learned from my panelists, my guests, was that even though China relaxed its one-child policy, its birth rate has not gone up the way they thought it would. And China again needs an increased birth rate to increase internal consumption. It's the same old story.
Yeah.
But women don't want to have more babies because the future is so uncertain. And as much as the Chinese control the media, everybody who spends any time outdoors knows that things are changing. You know, it's clear to the people. It's only the people who spend all their time in air-conditioned offices who can continue to deny, and the ideologists who, you know, are going to go down with the ship, saying, "Oh, what ship? What ocean?" You know.